Extra on your Tuesday. We have two topics to talk about today. The first is how early your kids get up and start school. Because in California, the governor just signed into law yesterday a new law that says middle and high school kids, now middle school kids and elementary school kids can't start before 8 a.m.
Yes.
High schoolers can't start before 8:30.
Yes.
Because it's going to help attendance and health and, you know, sleep and
Yes.
homework and fewer car crashes because of drowsiness.
Yes.
But on the flip side, it could cause more traffic and daycare costs because now you're bumping up against work times of parents. So we were asking you guys all morning, do you think school should start later across the board? Drew says there has to be a time, like what is later,
Are you
right?
quoting me?
I am.
Are you quoting me right now? Or are you paraphrasing?
What time do your kids start school?
So this was a big year of change in the Carney household because from kindergarten through 5th grade.
I am so sorry.
Wow,
I did
Brenda.
not turn down my volume.
Brenda,
and that
you
was
just totally
really
distracted
rude.
me. I lost my train of thought. Are we talking about food this morning? What
I wish.
School start times. So from kindergarten through 5th, they started at 7:50. They had to be there basically at 7:45 because after 7:50 they were considered late.
Yeah.
This year, middle school, 6th grade, the school start time is 9:15. They went from 7:50
That's crazy.
to an hour and 25 minutes later, 9:15. So they catch the bus now at 8:45, and it seems like they have a lot of time on their hands before school. So I think there's a fine line because it's funny. I used to say, man, 7:50 is too early.
Yeah.
These guys need more sleep. Now I'm saying, geez, what the heck are we doing here? It's 9:15, they just started school. So I don't know, maybe there's a middle ground. Maybe it's 8:30.
Are they sleeping more, do you think?
They probably, yes, because there's no longer, before there were days when my wife would have to wake them up, for sure, to get out of the door in time. Now she never goes in there and wakes them up. They don't set an alarm, but they are getting up at like 7:30. And apparently, good on them, I'm not there right now, obviously, right? I'm here with you and you.
Yeah.
But apparently they're waking up and every night they have to do like 20 minutes of reading for homework, and they do that 20 minutes of that night's reading in the morning before they even go to school.
Okay.
Huh.
Now the other thing is when they come home now, because they start so late, they end late, they don't get home sometimes until 4:20, and in our house, that should be almost dinner time.
Yeah.
Because
It's like-
you're an early bird.
Right.
Yeah.
You and the grandparents
Come on
eat
in,
at
But
Rob.
4:30.
so there is a fine line. I think the 8 o'clock hour, somewhere in there would be the ideal time to start school.
Yeah.
9:15 seems really
Yeah, late.
Yeah, it does.
Did your wife have to alter her work schedule because
She's
of
getting
that?
into work a little bit later, and she's getting home a little bit later,
Yeah.
again, affecting the dinner time in our household. It all comes down to that. Everyone's
always
worried about
hungry.
sleep. I'm worried about dinner.
I know you are. You know, when my kids were little, especially my son, he loved the 9:15 middle school start. It was great for him because he's a bit of a night owl. He got a little more sleep. My daughter is always on the early side. So even though she didn't have to be there at 9:15, she'd get up anyway and she'd do homework. She'd do something like
Right.
that because she's that kid.
Yeah.
So I kind of like it. And when I would go home, because I would be here, I'd take a breakfast break and I had time to spend with them in the morning
Okay.
before they were off to school. So we didn't have, you know, the daycare issues, which are
So many
huge
people
issues.
have. Yeah, if they have to be at work at 9 or our weird schedule, you know, it's hard to get them there on time. What's up?
But it does real quick. The thing that backs up, and I know you've got a daughter who's really involved in athletics and ice skating. Getting out late, that means you pack the car with snacks, with a change of clothes,
Right.
with all the sports stuff, and you zoom and get them at
Yes.
school, and then you take them to the club, whatever
right
it
at
is,
rush
soccer,
hour.
gymnastics. It's rush hour.
Yeah, they get out so late now, my boys do, that they can't take the bus on Tuesdays and Wednesdays or else they won't make it to soccer on time. So I have to go pick them up so that they can get to soccer on time those
Right.
days. Everything, like you said, backs up.
Can I just say that
Please do.
I believe this has been studied in the past and confirmed that there are certain activities that kids do and that leads to them being successful in life. And one of those activities is music. Well, when I was in marching band
Bless you.
practice at 6:30 in the morning at school. 6:30 in the morning. Now,
How much did you hate that?
Well,
As a kid?
it was early. I mean, I wouldn't hate it any more then as I would now. But my point is, these are kids that were amongst the most successful academically in their school, and yet they were there at 6:30 in the morning, which makes me kind of snicker at any research that shows sleeping in is going to make you smarter. I don't buy it.
I do agree that if you're thinking, oh, well, we don't have to get up as early, so we can stay up a little bit later and get things done, like that's not the answer. I always feel like, in fact, isn't it scientifically proven that if you go to bed early, and you rise early, it makes you healthy, wealthy, and wise.
Thank you, Ben.
No, seriously, I agree with like, hey, let's get to bed a little earlier. Let's wake up a little early. Let's start the day and let's
get it
attack
going.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's not drag it out.
Stanford Walker. Now, you cannot have little kids, can you? Because this
Why?
can't be true.
No,
He says our family starts at 4:30 a.m. with meditation to start our day.
Meditation.
Wait a
I
minute.
meditate in the morning sometimes too. I love that. But with kids, no. I think that's great for adults. I could never roust my kids at that hour to do any
Get
kind
up.
of
We're
meditation.
going to meditate.
I got it. He's kind of a wise guy on this feed sometimes, that Stanford Walker is. So I'm gonna ask you, Stanford, are you being serious or are you messing with us?
So I posted this question on our Facebook pages this morning, and Margaret Prentice, who I think we went to high school together, she says, yes, she likes this idea of starting later. My kids have a 0 period, which I was reading about, before school, jazz band class in high school that starts at 6:40 a.m.
Yeah.
It's brutal for them, she said. Brandon Bachman, one of our regulars, says, I went to high school. When I went to high school, freshman year started at 9:30. Everyone else started at 7:40 in the morning. So
That's
the older
when we
you got, the
started,
earlier.
7:40.
Yeah, and Jason says kids are too coddled today. Kelly says no, she doesn't believe in later starts. Some already start too late. Elementary at 9 a.m., 10 a.m. on late start days.
Yeah, those late start, the early release days are the killers too. Like, let's just have normal days every day. Let's start like, who said, you said Forrest Johnson, right? Just chimed in with that. Because those will mess with someone's schedule too. You talk about daycare issues, like once a month our kids get out of school 2 hours early. When they were in primary school, it was a 12:10 release. Well, geez, that puts a crinkle in your day if you're still at work.
Oh, yeah. you gotta
Katie
figure out-
Wilson says, bad idea. Go to bed earlier. And Jason says, no. Jeff Lucas says, LOL, I meditate in my dreams.
On Instagram, Judith Potter says she's watching us from San Antonio, Texas.
Oh,
With my
hey.
morning
Hello.
crew. Hi,
Yeah.
Judith. Thanks for watching. And Van Duder Boss, good morning, Oregon. Have a wonderful day.
Did you read Maria Z already? Did I miss that?
No.
She says,
Maria
just
Z.
go to school all year round with more breaks for holidays and stop making the little ones get up at 6 a.m. If anything, the older kids in high school should have earlier start times and release to go to after school jobs.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't understand I didn't live in this world. Do some of you live in a world where your kids go to bed when they want? I don't get that. You get more sleep. I'm like, what?
In
as
high
a parent,
school, I
you
did,
as
yeah.
parents, you tell your kids when to go to bed. You orchestrate the amount of
in
sleep
high school?
they
Listen,
need.
I was gonna say
Yes.
this.
Hard.
No,
you
listen.
grew up in a different world than I grew up
No,
in. My
Natasha is in
folks,
7th grade?
we had bedtime
Yeah, just
hours.
wait.
7th
You
grade?
got your 8 hours of sleep.
not
You
gonna
went to
tell
bed.
In high
talking to
school,
you.
what time did you go to bed?
I don't remember even in high school. I mean, we had sometime activities that would go longer, but when you were home, even in high school, we were supposed to be in bed around 9.
Oh, wow.
Now listen,
Yeah, that's
let's talk about this.
Yeah, not-
Well,
Natasha's in
this
7th
opens
grade.
up the other can of worms of there just doesn't seem to be as much discipline in the world today as there was 20, 30, 40 years
So
ago.
do you think as a 17-year-old high school senior, you're
I
going
was
to
a high
tell Natasha
schooler.
what time to go to bed?
What?
When Natasha is 17,
Yeah.
a high school senior,
Yeah.
you're going to dictate what time she goes to sleep.
That's correct.
It's not
I
gonna happen
love
there.
dads
There's
and
other parents
daughters.
laughing across the room.
205 years from
Oh, I
now.
remember
Well, laugh
doing
at my
homework
parents.
so
and
late at
my
night,
parents
and it was just-
dictated
I had to
us.
Well, you didn't have
homework.
television back
My
then,
parents
Rod.
dictated when we went
There
to
was no reason to
school.
stay up.
Your parents' responsibility to make sure you have the allotted time you need of sleep before your next school day.
We'll
Can I
check in
just
with
say,
you in 3
because this
days.
is your first go round with a little one.
Well, my
and
parents pulled it off.
It's always so easy when you talk about it in
My
theory.
mom and dad pulled it off.
I understand, but I'm talking about you. And I think when you and Natasha go round and round when she's a teenager, you may have a little bit different take on that.
I don't think so, dear.
What if she
think
tells you that she
will
doesn't
teach
love
a
you
thing or
anymore when you
two.
told her to go to bed at 9 o'clock?
You're acting like my mom and dad pulled it off. That's part of parents' responsibility. You got to have X amount of sleep before your school day.
We question
End of
whether you're
story.
as good a parent as your parents were.
Ooh.
Well, I'm probably not. My parents grew up in a
This
world
is
that they
taking a
didn't want to
turn.
be their kids' friends. That wasn't their job. Their job was to be the disciplinarian and set the rules in the house.
Do you think your wife is going to be on board with this idea of telling Natasha to go to bed at a certain time when she's 17?
You clearly have not met my
What if
wife.
she's still doing her homework, Rod, and she hasn't?
You
finished
got to
her
get your
assignment?
homework done before
Yeah.
then. Obviously, if
it's
something
not?
happens and you had some
What if
extra
it's
school
not?
activity, then you have to stay up and do it. And then you got to
She
get
has
up the next
lots of
morning and suck it
activities,
up.
right? Plus dinner.
Jeff,
Yeah.
This
I'm
is
just
part of
saying,
training
like,
for your
homework.
professional job, too. Golly gee, I didn't get to bed last night. Sorry, I'm an hour late for work. Give me a
She's not gonna be
break.
late to school. You just may get less sleep.
So Ginny Carlson says, my mom said I could choose bedtime as long as I could manage school.
Okay.
If it slipped up, I lost that privilege.
There you go,
My
yeah.
15 and 19-year-old live by the same rule. I think that's good.
Yeah, perfect.
Jeff Lucas says, will not work for high schoolers. Good luck, Rod.
Yeah. Oh,
Jeff
Jeff.
Lucas doubting your ability to parent the
I
way you
was
say
up
you will.
so
I'm
late
telling you,
doing homework.
if you can't discipline your own household, that's a you problem. It really is.
It'll probably be a you problem at some point. I'm just saying.
Well, then it is, but it is a you problem. It hasn't changed.
This
that.
may be my favorite all-time discussion on Sunrise Extra.
We're fighting
I
against
love it.
Rod.
No, I like the ride. You're holding your ground. I like the idea, no doubt about it. And in our house, I do feel bad sometimes, and I think you operate it differently, Brenda, because you sometimes would go to bed as early as 6 or 7, which I haven't really
When
done.
the kids were little?
Yeah, no?
No.
Okay, I thought you were telling me sometimes you would just go to bed whether they were done or not. But
No,
in our
well-
house, I find it hard to go to bed until the house is settled a little bit.
Yeah.
And so I encourage, obviously, in our house, like kids, start thinking about bed 8:30, 9 o'clock for sure.
Yeah, no, it just didn't work that way. I mean, I didn't ever get to bed at 6 or 7, although I would have loved to back in the day. But usually I was in bed by 8.
Okay.
The kids were not done doing their stuff, and their dad was home.
Okay.
So they would tuck me in, they would finish their things, and then, they would go to bed. I was out when I had to get up at 3 a.m. So
I set you up
somebody
for that
else
just now.
was in charge.
I'm hoping that Mia is actually watching. I did that on purpose. Did you hear
Yes.
that? The kids, Mia,
Yeah.
would tuck Brenda in
Yes,
bed.
they would.
And then I guess her significant other, would take care of things from there.
Yeah.
While Brenda rested peacefully in her bed at 8 o'clock.
This shift is so hard.
Sometimes they would tuck me in and I would be asleep, out cold before they got out the door. I mean, we talk about that
I'm so
sometime with little kids. You're so exhausted, your head hits the pillow and you're gone.
Yeah.
It's
God
funny.
bless our significant others.
There are times where I do go up before them. They try to be helpful. They're downstairs. They're watching TV. Mia, the boys are watching TV. I said, hey, I'm going to go to bed. I'm going to bed early.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, that's fine. And then I haven't fallen asleep yet, but you can hear like maybe 20 minutes has passed, and they're coming up, and the dog gets ahead of the pack, and I can hear my wife like calling him, like she knows what's about to happen. Please, no, back here, no. And then like next thing is, boom, the door flies open, and then there's an airborne
jumps
animal.
on you?
Yes, he lands on the bed. I'm like, ugh.
My God, that's hilarious.
Yes.
So, the one thing that I did have, this is an old saying, and I live by it, and I made sure that my children could recite it to me when they were very small. And it was, if mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. And they
very true.
knew
That's true.
after I went to bed, I mean, it was either they were downstairs, they weren't on our level, it was
Right.
quite, there was a certain respect for that. And I started that early because I couldn't have functioned for 30 years here on this shift otherwise.
Yeah.
So.
In support of Rod?
Support of me.
Viewer Lisa.
We have somebody who supports me?
Yeah, Lisa Wark. Good morning, Lisa Wark. I don't recall you ever making a comment.
Good morning,
on this
Lisa.
tweet in the past, but Lisa Wark this morning says, I agree with Rod discipline.
That's
She agrees
one.
with everything you say.
You're going to tell
Sharon
high
says
school
my
kid.
bedtime is 9 p.m.
Yeah.
I like the viewer, I can't remember the name, that said that as long as our kids can manage their sleep time, that's their privilege to do so. Then the second that they start slipping up on that, then mom and dad take over. I like that.
Jeff, man, you are just a treasure this morning. He said, record this to play back for Rod when Natasha
what I
is
say.
in high
Yeah.
school.
Come on, you people, come on. What time's Natasha's in 7th grade? Her bedtime right now is 7:30, or she's in bed by 8 at the latest. But again, she gets up 5:30 or 6 to go ice
Homework
skate.
is going to get more and
So-
more and
Complicated.
more
Oh,
intense.
absolutely.
Complicated.
Yeah.
And man, I was just such a procrastinator.
Yep.
I would dawdle. I would be up doing homework till midnight. I would fall asleep doing homework until like midnight.
I would
12:30.
think that if we noticed that, I think my wife would agree with me. If there's a point where, okay, you're not doing yourself any good, go to bed, and you're just going to get up earlier in the morning and you'll
Right.
finish it then.
I had to do that even in college. I was not an overnight crammer. I would go to bed and then I would get up at 4 or whatever I needed
I
to do,
could
but
not
I never stayed up.
I was a night owl.
There's no for me anyway, my brain works best when it's just coming off a piece of rest. right? So whether
Sure.
that's the morning, sometimes I'm here and I'm like looking at the computer and I cannot focus, I will go downstairs, admittedly, into the car, and I will hibernate for about 30 minutes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Center yourself.
done that.
And then
get a
come
little
back up and
rest.
like, all right, my brain is ready to look at this computer screen again for another hour.
That's good that you know. My mom would chase me to bed if I was up just watching TV, like Johnny Carson. It was
yeah.
like on at 11:30,
Oh, I
wasn't it,
remember.
back in the day? And like
Yeah.
if I was trying to stay up late just to watch that, she'd be like, TV off. But if I was doing homework, there was never
That's funny.
a thing.
Yeah, we did not have the discipline that you spoke of in your parents' household. We did not have that going on when I was growing up. My mom, single parent, she got a job at one point. I think I was like in second grade when she would work till 10:30 at night. And so,
you were on your own?
I had an older sister who was 4 years older than me. She wasn't very responsible. But I do remember, like you said, Brenda, like sometimes watching like the Tonight Show even, because then my mom would actually like drive people, like she would carpool and she would take people home, and then she'd get home, and I'd have all the lights out with that TV light on, and I'd hear that car, like, shoot, turn it off, run upstairs,
Exactly
get in the
what I
bed.
would do, yeah.
Yep, and
If
I
the
saw the
TV was
monologue.
warm, it was a problem.
Yeah, exactly.
We were also.
I remember that too.
We were on the worst possible spot on our bus route because we were the first ones on in the
Oh,
morning.
wow,
This
yep.
was high school
And
too.
last off.
Bus stop was 7:15 in the morning for us, and then we were the last ones off. So it could be as late as 4 when we got off the bus. But yeah, 7:15 sharp was when that bus came by every morning.
And how
Carol
many
Collins
oh,
says
sorry.
times have changed. I'm not as strict as my parents. My kids go to bed when they want. Interesting.
Yeah.
Where did you see
We'll
that
save
one?
it.
That
We'll save
was
this
where did
tape
it just
for
go?
him.
I just lost it.
She says her kids go to bed when they want. Times have changed. I'm not as strict as my parents. My kids go to bed when they want. I don't think times have changed so greatly that your kids just go to. There's a fine line here. There's the Rod way, and then there's the Carol way. Rod says to bed when I say so. Carol says I don't care when you go to bed. There's got to be
Carol
some
gets
middle
to do
ground.
what she wants at
Well,
her house.
you know,
Carol,
maybe-
what if your kid says I'm going to stay up till 3 a.m.?
But in her defense, perhaps her kids are self-motivated and they get up in the morning okay and they get everything done.
Okay.
Right? In her defense, maybe
Carol,
that's the
keep
case.
chiming in. I like where this is going.
Penny says they already changed the start times in Vancouver and Evergreen school districts. I think the only thing it did was made my kids stay up later.
Thinking they don't have to get up as early, yeah?
Right.
Yeah, that
Did
could
you
be.
guys read Becky Louise? Because she says, I think students are expected to do too much. And that's a whole other
Wow,
discussion.
a lot of people would disagree.
Like you.
They do a fraction of what they need to be doing.
Oh my God.
I will say that so far, middle school, through the first month and a half, I'm actually happy with the homework load because it doesn't seem to be overwhelming. I was told, and I had some fears that it would be too much, especially now that they're getting home as late as they are and they play sports after school. But so far, it's been manageable, and I encourage the teachers to keep it that way because it does make a difference. And I've always thought, like, can't we get done whatever this homework business is? Can't we cover that in class?
Right.
I understand the assignment now and again, but hours of homework when you get home at 4:30 and you're trying to be
I feel
do
like that
extracurricular
really
activities.
did change. Like in
Yeah.
middle school, I felt like our middle school teachers were really reasonable. I didn't feel that until they got to high school did the really homework start
Okay.
ramping up.
Well, we had
with
news
projects.
stories on. Remember, we had a series of stories in the last couple of years that said that studies have been done and the homework wasn't making anybody smarter. And I feel like in some districts, the homework is actually backed off somewhat in the last couple.
It was a stressor in our house, even when they had some in as little as second, third, fourth grade, like that, just that butting of heads, like you need to get your homework done now. No, I don't. Yes, you do. It takes away some family tension, and maybe a better run family would handle that tension better than
Yeah,
ours.
we had huge tension
Right.
at Jesuit, they give you your daughter went to St. Mary's. I don't know if it's the same, but it was a freaking ton of
Yeah, it
homework.
was. It is the
Hours
same.
of homework. And I was just exhausted every morning,
Right.
and I was living in Northeast Portland and driving to Beaverton, so we had to leave at 7 to get to school on time for 7:45, and I'd just be up exhausted all night doing so much homework.
I predict a feeling. I don't know if you had this feeling too, Brenda or Rod. When your little girl goes to school full time for the first time, I felt bad for them because I thought, okay, from here on out, it is 5 days a week forever.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's right.
like we went to preschool like 3 days a week for
Yeah.
a while there, but the moment they went to that 5-day full day schedule, I thought
It's
well,
on.
Yeah,
Yep.
sucks to be
Yeah,
you.
it's- yeah, it's something.
I will
It's true.
never forget because we started Zach, my oldest, in 5 day a week full day kindergarten, and I will never forget his little face coming out of that school walking
just
down
so
the sidewalk
tired.
to Mama. I've never seen it before or since. he was wiped. And then he like jumped right
Yes.
into it, but it was just that like,
Initially.
what the hell just happened
Right.
to me?
Those are 6 hours of my life I'll never
That
get
I'll
back.
never get back. Exactly. But that's
That's
a great
depressing,
discussion.
Drew. You're right, though. It's 5 days a week until you retire when
Yep.
you're in your 60s.
But you know what? I do
70s or
feel like,
whatever.
and we're baby boomers, and you're 10 years behind me, but I do think there's a different level of expectation, which does create anxiety in high-achieving kids. I saw it at St. Mary's. I asked their principal, I love the thought of your school. I love the academics. What's the downside? Because there's always got to be a downside. And she did admit that there was anxiety among the girls there. It is so hard charging, and it is you're attracting girls who are already that way, and then you specialize, and you've got to be great in sports. I remember my daughter saying at 10, I can't play baseball. I haven't been doing it like long enough. Like, what do you mean you can't play softball or baseball? You're 10.
Right.
You
Yeah,
have,
well.
but it's such a, and I am competitive, so I'm putting her in the best this, and there is a different level of expectation that is not healthy. I mean, some kids can manage it. I'm so glad if yours can. We've had issues off and on with that. That is a real thing. Even though you're really super smart, you're successful, but there is a toll that takes that I feel like I didn't have when I was growing up.
Stress.
That's wise. You're right. You're right. And I don't think I appreciate that enough. But what you said is exactly right. Yeah.
Actually reconsidering how I parent after that.
Brenda always dropping the knowledge.
No, that was great.
A little bit.
7:22. Well, can we end with this one comment? I don't know
Yes.
if I'm going to be fined it or not. It has nothing to do with the topic. It's just a good closer. Jonathan Keck. I like that last name. Keck says, I like that Nina is not walking around with the selfie stick any longer. He says, please take this as constructive feedback. And we are done with the selfie stick. We have found new ways.
We're doing a different,
Well,
we're letting Instagram see us how you guys are seeing us on Facebook. So hopefully that works out better. Thank you guys for joining us. We will see you tomorrow. Have a great Tuesday. Bye.
I was going to say, don't tell your daughter to feel bad. The St. Louis Cardinals can't.